Winter meetings are underway, and the Cubs, well, they're being rumored to have some interest in some big, high leverage arms, including one from Japan who could be the hottest arm on the market this year, Tatsuya Imai. Are the Cubs really in on Imai? We're going to get into this. Are the Cubs going to trade Nico Hoerner? What to expect there? And how it ties into the Bregman conversation. And also another big-time player that the Cubs have certainly thought about adding, and that's Robert Suarez, the closer that's been one of the best in baseball for the Padres over the last couple of seasons. Well, he's available, and it's rumored that maybe they're interested in him. All that and more right here on the Cubs Baseball channel. Let's get this show started. Great to see you guys today. Go Cubs. Hey everybody, Mick Gillespie, Cubs Baseball channel. Hey, make sure that if you want one of these, then you do one of these right here. Right under the microphone, there's the QR code, AveD Mick Nation. That's where we pick games. That's where we give away weekly prizes. Be a part of it. It's all free. That's our Web3 home. We're building that right now, and we appreciate you guys being a part of it. Okay. All right, let's get into the headline today, and that's Japanese right-hander Tatsuya Imai. Now, Imai is someone who a lot of teams would love to have, right? He is a star young pitcher from Japan. He's 27 years old, turns 28 next season, and another NPB season that was amazing. He had a 1.92 ERA. He's a Scott Boras client, right? And he's a guy that brings in just everything you want. He's got an electric fastball between 99, at the high end of it, 95 though, with 95 to 99, I should probably say, is his velocity. He's got a deceptive arm slot around 20 degrees that creates a flat, hard to perceive for hitters. He's got that sharp sidearm slider, and he's also got a splitter changeup. I mean, look, the guys just bring so much to the table, right? The slider is really unique because it's a reverse gyro, and it's just so hard for batters to pick up on, and he's got this deceptive delivery that makes him really, really interesting and someone who has wanted to pitch in the major leagues for a long time, right? So kind of that Joe Ryan type of arm slot. And then he kind of reminds you of Yamamoto of the Dodgers, who was the MVP of the World Series. And for Imai, we're looking at a multi-year deal. Obviously, he's been posted by the Cebu Lions, so you're going to have to pay them a posting fee, and then you have to pay him. And it looks like it's going to be anywhere from $135 million to $190 million. So about $25 million annually. And the Cubs have competition, and it's big time competition, Mets and Yankees, right? So if the Cubs are going to get this guy, they're going to have to pay some money, right? And when you talk about someone that brings that much to the table, you need to be able to go out there and expect to pay a lot. Pitching and starting pitching costs an awful lot, right? So I'm thinking 6 or 7 years, and you hope that you build, your rotation around Imai, and where would Imai kind of slot in with the Cubs? I mean, I think he'd be right up at the top. They would hope, like Yamamoto's been for the Dodgers. But like I said, you got both New York teams, some maybe Giants thinking about him. Tigers, maybe even Baltimore. So, we'll see what happens here. But it is interesting that, John Heyman is saying that amongst other teams, the Cubs are really interested in him. Now, remember, he made the comment that he, didn't have to get, basically it translated into, him kind of wanting to blaze his own trail or, whatever, basically just saying, hey, I don't have to be on the team with Japanese players, and I almost felt like that was more directed at the Dodgers than any other team, just because it was like you got all of a sudden Ohtani and then Yamamoto and then Sasaki. It was like, oh, okay, all the Japanese guys. Well, Cubs do have a couple of Japanese players, and they're two of their best players. Obviously, Imanaga and then, Seiya Suzuki. So you got dudes there, but at the same time, Imai would look so good in a Cubs uniform, and they need the pitching. And I'm sure that he's going to go where the best fit is, and monetarily is a part of that, right? So I'm glad that we keep hearing his name, right? And when you hear guys like Jon Heyman saying, look, don't think that the Cubs are out of this, well, that tells me that, that the Cubs are still in it. Remember the whole show to Imanaga? It was the Red Sox, it was the Giants, it was the Angels, it was the Cubs, and it looked like he was going to San Francisco. And then at the last minute, he ends up coming to the Cubs. So, hopefully that happens. Now, if the Cubs would have got Zach Gallen, then I don't think this would have been on the table anymore. I think he'd have been gone, So maybe it worked out if the Cubs end up getting this superstar, and he comes over and performs like Yamamoto, and then, you're feeling pretty good about it, right? But yeah, he's been one of the best pitchers in Japan, and those guys here lately have come over and they've been just off the charts. All right. Now, the second thing I wanted to talk about with you guys was this. No, not the pronunciation of Imai, but don't expect a Nico Hoerner trade. Now, we heard, and kind of when you do the math, you feel like, because of Ian Happ's no trade clause and Seiya Suzuki's no trade clause, and then, you're not trading Michael Busch, and I don't think you could trade Dansby Swanson with the big contract. Maybe you could, but I don't know. Matt Shaw being a guy who we're trying to figure out what the Cubs really think of him. You're going to trade Carson Kelly, you're going to trade Pete Crow Armstrong. It's just not anything there that you're looking at and going, hey, this is where I would make a move. Maybe some of the guys on the pitching staff, but Nico would be an ideal trade fit. And that's what Mark Feinstein said, the MLB insider. And I couldn't agree with him more. He's coming off of a great year. He's a Gold Glover. He is a table setter. Sometimes it feels like he's a little underutilized with the Cubs, but he's been so consistent. A lot of you guys don't want to see him traded, and he's going to be a free agent, so you're going to have to pay him, and, he's going to get paid a pretty good contract when it's all said and done, right? And it would be weird to see Nico in another uniform. But, after that was kind of said, Jon Heyman, talking on his show, basically said he doesn't expect the Cubs to trade Nico. And what he was basically saying is that the Cubs are clearly in on Alex Bregman. This is the second year in the postseason that the Cubs have been interested in Alex Bregman. There's definitely smoke and I believe fire for the Cubs and Bregman. They tried to get him last year. He ended up with the Red Sox. This year, the Cubs and the Red Sox are in the mix to get him again. Maybe there's another team in there. The Tigers could potentially get him. I saw one report where there's a mystery team that's interested in him. The Cubs have money to spend right now. What would you do with Shaw? If you got Bregman, I think maybe like that utility role that we saw Willie Castro provide the Cubs after they traded for him at the deadline could be something that you think about. But the Cubs are in on him. But one other thing that Heyman said is that he just doesn't see the Cubs trading Hoerner, and he thinks that he's a guy they would want to keep. And that's interesting, because there is some value there. But it's not like you want to move Nico for anything other than just value. You really like him, but other teams would like him too. And if you go and get Bregman and then you got Shaw who can play second base, he's not going to be as good, but he's going to hit for more power than Nico. So maybe that's a reason why. I don't know. Nico puts the ball in play so much. He's so solid. And you feel like in this day and age where it's hard for guys to get on base with hits, you like a guy that gives you a lot of hits. And that's Nico Hoerner. So Some of you guys can take a deep breath because I know there's been this, oh, we're going to get rid of Nico. Nah, I think we're all right. All right, last thing. Robert Suarez, serious free agent target for the Cubs? Question mark. And I'm curious myself. Is he a serious contender to be a potential Cubs free agent signing? The Cubs went out and got Phil Maton, and that was a good pickup. I mean, he's been a really good pitcher. But now what? Now what are we looking at? And if the Cubs are serious about Suarez, that's going to cost them some pretty good money because, you're talking about really he and Diaz being I'd say the two hottest commodities on the market right now. I mean, and Suarez, who has over the last couple of years closed out 76 games, and that's more than anybody, right? And then he's got a 2.87 ERA. That's like ninth best, and his walk rate is pretty good too. And I mean, look, his strikeout to walk rate's good. This is a guy who throws it consistently about 99 miles an hour. Are you gonna pay to have him? And these guys are a commodity because you get in the postseason, and these are the guys that get you there. And the premium's going to look something like, 2 years, $25 million, 3 years, $50 million. And I even saw where the Athletic was saying, Jim Bowden was saying 5 years, $80 million. No. Nobody's paying this guy 5 years, Jim. But, 2 or 3 years with that type of money for a back-end reliever is really, really good. The problem is these guys get hurt all the time. And I kind of thought when, I'm not changing my mind here, but I'm thinking it's more like Tyler Rogers, Pete Fairbanks, maybe Kyle Finnegan, somewhere in that neighborhood, bring Brad Keller back. I just think that we're kind of looking in that instead of going out and signing and paying for a Suarez. But to add that type of leverage to the back end of the bullpen, to me, puts you in a position where you, if he stays healthy, have a lot of options. I mean, you're talking about having guys at the end of the game that can get big outs, and you need that. You still got to have the starting pitching, and the Cubs have made it clear they're going to go out there and try to do that. Is Imai someone that you add? Could you get Imai and a Suarez? I don't know. So we'll find out. It's interesting. The crazy part to me is that a lot of this stuff, to me, the direction of the offseason would have changed had they signed Gallen. And I don't think it would have been a bad signing to get Gallen. And if they do, I mean, I don't think it's a bad signing at all. But Imai, has maybe you don't really know what you're going to get, but there's a really high ceiling there. And we found that out with Yamamoto. So anyway, look, we're watching this thing. It's going to be a fun week. Doesn't really seem like anything's imminent as far as a signing goes, but that can change in a second. So make sure that you guys stick around on the channel, get in the comments section. Tell me what you think. What do you want? Do you want Bregman? Is it worth it signing a third baseman? Would you trade Nico? I know a lot of you guys wouldn't. I've always liked Nico Hoerner. I saw him, and I think I've told this story on here many times. I saw him, and I saw his last Double-A game, and I said to him, I said, man, be ready. We're walking off the field at the end of the game. I said, just be ready, because you could tell that on that team in the big leagues that there was just like an injury away from him getting there, and he ended up getting there. And I thought he was ready to do that. And I've always just kind of saw a lot of Ryan Sandberg in him, not the power. Look, Rhino's our favorite player. I know that the guy on the morning show got offended because I said that he reminded me of Rhino. He just does. Like the way he moves. He was a shortstop in the minors. I knew he'd be a second baseman in the big leagues. He squares the ball up, but he just doesn't hit for power. I mean, I think that's the biggest difference, right? And Rhino hit all those home runs. but they were both really consistent defenders and Gold Glovers, and made all the plays. And one scout described Rhino as a stiff-backed defender and did so well. Nico kind of has to me like a mechanical moving too. I didn't know there was a term for it, but I've loved watching him. And I'm excited to see what he could do on a team that makes a run for a championship. I mean, you love hit when he bats in the clutch because he puts the ball in play. So I just feel like in the right situation, he could be a real thorn in the side of a team on a run to a World Series. And if that's what the Cubs, that'd be great. And if it was somebody else, would not surprise me. So anyway, you guys tell me what you think. Thank you for hanging. We'll talk again soon. Also, I want to tell you that we're presented by the great people in Sevierville. Yep, that is Sevierville, Tennessee, home of the Smoky Mountains. Great time to go out there right now. They get the third or the fourth most visitors to the Smokies from the Chicagoland area. So you guys are going, and I just wanted to remind you the Christmas lights are up. It's a great time of year to go check it out.
When you head to the Smoky Mountains, it's only natural to visit Sevierville.
Even we had to check it out.
And we've been here our whole lives.
Experience the adventure of a lifetime.
I'm king of the world.
Even you can get a bird's eye view of the Smokies.
You're going down, Billy. Whoa.
Your Smokies start here.